Okay, this one might end up being one of the longest one of these things I've done. Because the TMNT has been a part of my life pretty much as far back as I can remember. I was 3 years old when the original 87 cartoon first debuted, and that watching that cartoon makes up pretty much my earliest memory. Like, the earliest memory I can even dig up is being a tiny child sitting on the living room floor, like, watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, just being sucked into it. And this franchise is a little bit different from, like, how I got into other things. Usually whenever I jump into a franchise, I usually jump in, like, at the beginning of it. Like whatever, like, the first thing is, that's where I kind of start. With the exception of, I guess, like, Gundam, but then again, I guess, like, I didn't know there was more Gundam besides Gundam Wing when I first came over. TMNT, kind of the same issue. When the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic debuted, I was a week old. So yeah, I wasn't going to be reading that shit. And I never even knew there was a comic for the longest time. For the longest time, I just knew that there was the cartoon. I knew that there were, like, the Archie comics. I read those as a kid, like, occasionally. But I was mostly just super into the show, and I was super into the movies that were coming out. And that was just my childhood. Now, if you were not around in the 80s when this happened, like the late 80s, early 90s, TMNT was the biggest thing. It was everywhere. It was on fucking cereal boxes and bed sheets and fucking ice cream and, just toys. I mean, the mere fact that it was even able to get 3 live-action films at that point, everything gets a fucking live-action film now. Like, anything that comes out, like, I'm still waiting for them to just have, like, the all fucking, like, My Little Pony fucking live-action movie where it's just CGI fucking horses and shit. I'm waiting for it. It's gonna happen eventually, god damn it. But, like, back in the, like, early 90s, like, the late 80s, things didn't just, like, like, kids' properties didn't really get movies like this. Like, the TMNT were something big, something special. The only things I could think of that really were, like, on the same cultural phenomenon level would be the Power Rangers and Pokemon. I really can't think of anything that had, like, the big boom that those other franchises had, and then, like, just, like, and the longevity that those franchises had. Because, like, TMNT, like, it kind of goes in and out of fashion every so often. We're like, Power Rangers, we're still in the same continuity of Power Rangers that we were when we fucking started. Fucking Pokemon, we're still, like, it's still Ash and his buddies doing their adventures. I'm dropping shit, god damn it. Pokemon, we're on that same continuity with, Ash, he's forever fucking 10 years old. TMNT, though, it's this weird fucking property where it just, like, it goes out of trend and then it comes back, and it's always new and different each goddamn time. They always kind of change the wheel a little bit with each iteration. And it's not too surprising because TMNT is such an odd property because its first 2 iterations are so vastly different. The original was like this really gritty, sort of violent, not as violent as people like to pretend it is, comic book from the 80s that was meant to be kind of like a parody of the Frank Miller Daredevil shit that was going on at the time. And, like, other Frank Miller stories. And then, like, the 87 cartoon was just meant to be, like, a toy commercial. It was meant to be the super kid-friendly, very comedy-heavy, very little action, very slapstick, very ridiculous thing. But it took, like, the framework, the bones of, like, the original comic that made something completely different. And then the cartoon blew the comic out of the water in terms of its popularity, and it completely just became synonymous with what TMNT is. In fact, every time that there is a new iteration of TMNT now, it's always like a weird mix mash of the comic and the cartoon. It usually just pulls a little like some elements from the comic. It'll pull some elements from the cartoon. Usually, it's like like the origin from the comics and stuff, and like the more violent elements from the comic, and with the more comedic nature of the cartoon, with the colored headbands, the personality traits that the turtles got from that cartoon, their love of pizza, things like that, like the more iconic element of the turtles. will always come from that cartoon. And, like, this cartoon was my childhood. It was such a touchstone, and it's really not good. Like, I've gone back to it as an adult, and, like the first season still holds up really, really goddamn well. But past that first season, it gets a little bad at times. Sometimes it's really bad. There's still a lot of really good episodes, but, you know, it goes through, you know, phases. And then you have the other big part of my childhood, which was the live-action movies. And, like, the first intro movie, I mentioned this before in the past, it is my all-time favorite movie. And this isn't like just a kind of, oh, it's a nostalgia thing and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's probably also a nostalgia thing. But it is one of those movies that I always keep going back to. And every time I go back to it, I'm like, no, this movie is really goddamn good. And I always get annoyed whenever I see people talk about it. It's like, yeah, it was good for its time. Yeah, it was all right. Oh yeah, it's definitely, you know, doesn't really hold up like people would like. No, it fucking holds up. It is a legitimately great fucking movie. The characters are all fully realized. It has like a genuinely emotional story with like a core theme to it. Like it doesn't waste your time. The story is like really lean and to the point. And yeah, it's a good fucking movie. In fact, like up until like that point, I would say like probably like the best fucking comic movie that had been made at that point. And it's a fucking miracle it ended up as good as it did. Fucking Jim Henson's creature shop effects look goddamn fantastic even today. So yeah, no, like this movie looked great. It fucking was written really well. The people behind it genuinely gave a shit about making a good movie. Too bad we can't get that kind of treatment for like every goddamn comic book property. But yeah, TMNT lucked the fuck out with its first movie. Like I said though, like my favorite movie of all goddamn time, to this day. Which is kind of weird because it wasn't my favorite movie as a kid. Like, as a kid, like, I didn't really have a favorite movie. In fact, like, as a kid, if you would ask me, like, what was my favorite Ninja Turtle movie, I'd probably tell you 2. Because 2 had the mutants. 2 had, like, you know, Toka and Razar, and it was funnier, and, you know, it was a little bit sillier, and I was a kid, and that's the kind of things I preferred. But then whenever I went back as a teenager, I was just like, holy shit, man, this movie's really good. And I go back as an adult, and I'm like, holy shit, man, this movie's really good. So yeah, no, the movie totally fucking holds up. The other 2, not so much. 2 is okay at best, and 3 is absolute fucking dog shit. So, to those. But yeah, no, the original, still great. And I was still riding my TMNT high. Like I said, I was going through the original animated series, then, you know, like the movies, and I was still watching the animated series. Like I said, I was picking up the occasional Archie comic, which I didn't understand because the Archie comic had gone off in its own weird fucking direction by the time I started even reading that. So I had no clue what the fuck that was all about back then. And then Turtlemania started to peter out. Ratings were clearly declining, and I would say there are 2 things that killed TMNT. One was Batman the Animated Series, because Batman the Animated Series proved that you could have more mature storylines on a kids show, and kids will respond positively to it. And yeah, no, like it completely, like Batman the Animated Series completely changed the children's animation landscape and how kids action cartoons were being written and produced. Because back in the 80s. The really, the late 80s and the really early 90s, everything was trying to fucking be TMNT. Everything was just trying to, ride that wave. What type of weird fucking team of animal people can we just make it to a cartoon and sell some fucking toys? And then Batman comes along with its mature themes and mature storylines and just things that, you know, kids had never seen before. And the sillier tone of Ninja Turtles it couldn't fucking hold up. And this even just not only affected TMNT, but Spider-Man comes out and it's doing these long story arc things. You have X-Men, which was dealing with, the whole racism allegory shit. So yeah, cartoons were getting heavier. And TMNT tried to change with the times. They kind of revamped the series for the last 3 seasons. That a lot of people know as the Red Sky seasons, where things got a little bit darker, a little bit edgier, but it honestly just kind of made the series blander, because it took out, it ended up kind of killing a lot of the humor, and like the writing just wasn't strong enough without that humor to hold the narratives together. So you just kind of ended up with just kind of a blander version of what we were watching. And yeah, so yeah, TMNT just it petered out and just kind of died. Like, you know, plus like the movies were making less and less each time. Ninja Turtles 2 made less than the first one. Ninja Turtles 3 made less than the second one. Ninja Turtles 4 didn't even get fucking past pre-production. So yeah, Turtles died, and then the final fucking nail in the coffin was Power Rangers, because Power Rangers hit and boom, blows the fuck up, kills TMNT, fucking kills it. And then, oddly enough, the man who fucking killed TMNT, you know, Haim Saban himself goes, I want to make a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. So he gets the rights from Eastman and Laird, the creators of TMNT, and he creates Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation. This series is really hated by a lot of people. I really like it. I think it's its own little unique thing. I don't hate the girl Turtle Venus. I think she's a perfectly fine character. Not too keen on the turtle tits though. I think that's a little weird. Even as a fucking preteen, I was just like, that's really weird. But like the rest of the show though, I think it's really charming. I think it's legitimately funny at times. I think it's got some fun little martial arts elements to it. This to me is the Adam West Batman of Ninja Turtle shows. It's silly, it's campy, but it's very intentionally so. Like, people constantly fucking bitch about just how goofy this show is and how dumb it is, and it's like, that was an intentional element. Shitting on the campy elements of this show is like shitting on the campy elements of the Adam West Batman, which there are people who do that, and those people are fucking wrong. The Adam West Batman is perfect. No one should ever talk bad about it. And honestly, I kind of feel, I mean, I could totally get behind, you're pissed because they got rid of the Shredder in the beginning. You don't like the fact that there's a girl turtle. You want Casey and April in there, and they didn't show up because they were planned for season 2, which never happened. And which, by the way, this show was not canceled due to low ratings, which is the rumor. The show actually did surprisingly well, because, you make Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles live action, done by the fucking Power Ranger guy, and live action kids action shows were blowing the fuck up back then. Beetleborgs was really popular, Power Rangers was really popular, and then he drops this shit, and it's just as popular as his, other shows, but unfortunately, the thing that got this show canceled was Eastman and Laird, like I said, the co-creators of the original comic, wanted more money. And they thought that they could strong-arm Saban into giving more money. And this is actually coming from an interview that Eastman himself did years ago. And he, Haim Saban was just like, fuck you, I'm not going to give you more money. It's like, I'm fucking Haim Saban. I'll just make another fucking show that's even better than this show and it'll be just as popular. Eat a dick. Little did Haim Saban know that his popularity was going to be waning fast. So yeah, Ninja Turtles: Next Mutation, I dug it. Only lasted one season, but yeah, that was the death rattle of TMNT. Like, this aired, I think, the year after the animated series had concluded, and then it went into it just kind of went into the darkness and died. And then TMNT was just gone for a while. It was gone, and it's around that time frame, like when TMNT was dead, that I started to learn about the comics. That there was the original comics, that they were darker and edgier and more violent, and also the fact that those comics were the basis for the original movie. Because when I saw the original movie, I didn't understand as a child why that movie was so different. So learning about that comic completely just, oh my god. And I got to read a few issues online on the official TMNT website, because TMNT was about to have a revival. And that revival came in the form of the 2003 series. It had a kind of a revamped website. Like I said, that's why I was reading some of the issues of the comics. And this one was one of the showrunners on this, or producers, or one of the creative members of this team was Peter Laird. And if you haven't been keeping track of his name, he's one of the two co-creators. So yeah, he was heavily involved in the production of this series, and it really shows, because it has a way darker edge to it, and as of right now, it is my favorite incarnation of TMNT. It has a lot of the humor and a lot of the has a lot of really creative elements, and it has a lot of the iconography that I knew from the cartoons, but it pulls its storylines and a lot of its inspirations more from the comics, and it creates like this really nice middle ground between the two, which is actually what the original movie did. Like, the original movie took the iconography and the personalities and the pizzas and all that bullshit and just shoved that into the comic book storylines. And here, they did something similar. They also did a lot of really crazy creative things, like make Shredder a fucking robot. And that was, no pun intended, fucking metal. He wasn't actually a robot. He was an Umtron alien. He was like Krang. He was like Krang, the little alien dude. And he was inside of him. And people kind of got really angry and called it jumping the shark, even though it was only the first season that they revealed that in. So apparently the show jumped the shark in the first season. But yeah, no, like, great fucking show. Went on for quite a while, and I watched it on television from season 1 to season 3 on TV. After season 3, I had moved out of my mother's house. I think that was like in 2000, I think it was like 2006, that makes sense. I moved out of my mother's house, and my roommates and I just didn't have a need for television. We didn't watch enough television to warrant having cable, so we just didn't have cable. So I didn't watch any more TMNT on television, so I had to wait for box sets. And honestly, to this day, I still don't have cable, because who the fuck watches cable television anymore? Everything's on the goddamn internet, and that's what Hulu's for. Goddamn. But yeah, so for TMNT, though, I watched season 4 on a DVD season set, and then while all that was going on, a new Ninja Turtle movie was in production, TMNT. And oh my god, this is pretty much the TMNT movie I have been waiting for since the original. I wasn't too keen on it all being CGI and stuff, but I didn't know where it was going to lie in the continuity. Apparently the continuity is the movie continuity, as you find out at the end of the film. But really, it's really more of its own standalone thing, even though it does technically fall into the continuity of the original live-action films. And yeah, this movie was fucking awesome. This is another movie where I see people kind of like, yeah, it's okay, it's alright, it wasn't as good as like the original, like the first two Ninja Turtle movies. Like, no, this movie kicks the shit out of Ninja Turtles 2 Secret of the Ooze. And it is, I wouldn't say it's as good as the original, but it's definitely really high up there. Like, this is definitely the best film incarnation of the Ninja Turtles since the original film. I fucking fell in love with this movie. One of the few times I ever went to a theater twice to see a film. And yeah, no, like, this movie was a goddamn blast. I loved, like, the whole damn thing about it. Now, after that, TMNT starts kind of, once again, waning in popularity. It's not quite as strong as it used to be. Like, back when, like, the 03 series first hit, it was pretty damn popular, and then it was kind of not as popular. It never hit, like, the heights that the original series did. Now, that's one thing to get out there. Like, that's why it only got a CGI movie, and it never quite got, like, the full-blown revival that the original series, like, the level that the original series had. And especially not the revival that we got, like, a few years later. And like I said, TMNT starts kind of waning in popularity. They do like a 5th season that they skip. Motherfuckers of the 03 series, they skipped season 5 and jumped straight to season 6, which is this gimmick season where they put them in the future called Fast Forward. A lot of people hate Fast Forward. I liked it. It was alright. Not as good as the original seasons, but I mean, there's still a lot of great shit in there. It's still really funny at times. The storylines were rock solid. So yeah, I mean, I still thought Fast Forward was good. I don't know why people shit on it as much as they do. I think it's just, they kind of missed the old storyline. They didn't like the gimmick of tossing them in the future. Yeah, the whole fucking point of that thing, too, was weird because, like, they wanted to make it more comedic and more episodic to appeal to the bitchy fanboys of the 87 series who hated the 03 series. And this completely backfired because, like, the fans of the 87 series still fucking hated the 03 series because Fast Forward still wasn't their version of TMNT that they knew and loved. And, fans of the 03 series felt ostracized because it had dropped the overarching storytelling style that the original seasons had and the darker tone that the original seasons had. So it kind of just it really kind of just upset everybody in that regard. Like I said, I still liked it because I'm not gonna get pissy because they changed the tone of the show, as long as the show was still being good, and I thought it was still good. And then they go on to do Ninja Turtles Back to the Sewer. Back to the Sewer was the last season that they did, where they went back to the sewer, out of the future, back into the present. Never got to finish watching that one because I've only been able to watch it online and shit because it never got like a proper... Actually, it never got any kind of fucking DVD release, now that I'm thinking about it. It's kind of some bullshit. Like, it's really fucked up that it never got a goddamn DVD release. But, Back to the Sewer comes out, and then finally, the series comes to a close with Turtles Forever. A movie that acts as a finale to the original 03 series, and it was a crossover between the 03 TMNT and the 87 TMNT. And yeah, this movie was pretty fucking cool. I like it a lot. The one criticism I have of it is the same criticism that everyone else has, which is they didn't get the voices for the original Turtles, because the original Turtles were union voice actors, and 4Kids didn't work with union voice actors, so they didn't get them back. They just hired in-house, the people they already had. Some of them sound really good, some of them not so much. It's kind of a mixed bag. Also, the big other criticism that the people have of the 87 TMNT in this movie is they are really goddamn goofy. They are a lot goofier than they ever were in the original animated series. Well, not necessarily a lot goofier than they were in the original animated series, but they never have a serious moment. They never take anything seriously. They are always 100% in joke mode, and that's not how those turtles acted. They were jokey a lot, and they were slapsticky and silly and ridiculous, but they did have serious, more grounded moments every so often. And in this movie, that isn't depicted at all. Like, even when shit's, really, serious, they're still cracking jokes and being, ridiculous and jokey and over the top. So yeah, I can see why it would put a lot of people off, but as a fan of the 03 TMNT, because I feel like a lot of people who hate this movie are only fans of the 87 TMNT. So they never, they didn't have an attachment to the 03 Turtles, which is why I was watching this, because I wanted to see the finale to this series that I've been watching. And the movie fucking ends on this great note where, the 87 TMNT, the 03 TMNT team up with the original Turtles from the Mirage comics, and then they fight goddamn Shredder, and it's awesome. Yeah, this movie goddamn rocks. I love it. Wish it got a better fucking release, because this is the TV edited version that's in fucking full screen, where there's there's a longer cut of this film that was shown in conventions in 16:9, and Nickelodeon just kind of fucked us on that and never actually gave us a good fucking release. So that movie ended the 03 run of the series. Laird's comic that he'd been working on, that ended. There weren't any more movies on the horizon. And then we got The Bomb. That just was what the fuck? Nickelodeon had bought the full rights to TMNT from Peter Laird, which at that point he had full control of the franchise because Kevin Eastman had sold his rights. And he just sells it all to Nickelodeon. And people were losing their shit. They were like, no, oh my god, what's gonna happen? They're gonna fucking ruin TMNT. And Nickelodeon's just like, oh yeah, we have a new cartoon in the works. We have a new live action movie. We're gonna have some new comic books in the work. And people were losing their shit. No, this is the worst fucking thing that could happen. And I'm like, why? It being under a big corporation, because one of the things that I was thinking, I'm like, oh, well, that'll just make it easier for a lot of these older, a lot of older things from the franchise to get re-released, because the original comic books were out of print, so I thought things like that were going to come back, and sure enough, it does. So in the early stages of Nickelodeon owning the TMNT franchise, they started releasing their own new comic, the IDW comic that's currently running now, and I haven't read a shit ton of it. Like, I've read about, I want to say, 7 or 8 trade paperbacks worth of the IDW comic, and it's awesome. I love it. It's so goddamn good. I need to fucking just read more of it, because there's so many I need to just buy those bitchin' ass hardcover compilations, because that's already way further ahead than where I was in the trade paperbacks, and just buy those, because, like, you know, that's, like, pretty much the perfect way to read those. But anyhow, like, I need to just fucking collect those things so I can get caught up on that comic, because I'm pretty sure if I continue reading that comic, that would be my favorite incarnation of Turtles, because that had so much promise. It had so many great things that they were setting up that I was so looking forward to reading, until I just stopped keeping up with the comic for one reason or another. So, like, that comic comes out, it's fucking awesome. And it's also being co-written by series co-creator Kevin Eastman. So, you know, Peter Laird lets go of the franchise, and Kevin Eastman's allowed to come back in, and now he's fucking writing shit for the series. And that's awesome. He's doing his new comic book, his new take on the Turtles. And, you know, we start hearing things about the new cartoon and the new movie that's in production, and something about, like, Michael Bay's gonna make them aliens and people are losing their fucking shit. But another good thing that happens is IDW re-releases the original comics in these gorgeous, hardbound, black and white page volumes. And if you're wondering why I emphasize the black and white, is that the original comics were black and white, and a lot of reprints of Turtle comics end up being in color. So I was really happy to own them in their original black and white format as they were originally intended to be seen. That was my first time really getting to sit down and read the comic. I got to read the entire Eastman and Laird run of the comics, and it's pretty awesome. Like, I mean, it's not as great as people try to, like, lift it up as being, but no, it's some great, you know, good, 80s comics. I liked it. It's good stuff. So, yeah, that's going on, and then the new series airs, and a lot of people are naysaying it right from the get-go. A lot of people are saying good things, a lot of people are saying bad things. It is an extremely divisive animated installment of the franchise, and I fucking love this cartoon. Like it's not as, like, I don't like it anywhere near as much as I like the '03 series or the IDW comics, or even like the live action movie or the TMNT CGI movie and shit like that. But I definitely, it's up there. It's a really good interpretation of TMNT. It's got a lot of weird pacing and writing issues every so often, but, you know, the showrunner is a dude named Ciro Nieli. I think I'm probably butchering his name, and I hope I got his name right. But anyhow, he was a head writer on Teen Titans, like actual Teen Titans, like, you know, the anime-influenced cartoon from the early 2000s. And it really shows here that this is the guy from Teen Titans, because you can just look at it and go, yeah, no, that's totally like the Teen Titans guy. You can see his fingerprints all over that shit. Or someone who worked on Teen Titans. You can see, like, their fingerprints all over that. And, yeah, no, it's a good incarnation. It's still going. It's getting its last season right now. I'm currently in the process of watching, I think, season 4 on Hulu. I think it's season 4. Yeah, the one where they're in space and shit, and they're fighting Triceratons. So yeah, I'm on that season. And, yeah, like, that's another great incarnation of the TMNT. And then we started getting, god damn it, the live action movies. And they are, I don't know. Okay. These movies are not abysmal trash. They're totally watchable. I don't think they're anywhere near as bad as the Transformer movies, because I really don't like the Transformer movies. These fall into the category of serviceable. They are okay. They do their job. And yeah, that's all I can really say. Like I said, they do their job. They're alright. They don't suck too bad. Megan Fox isn't terrible. I kind of wish they had kept William Fichtner being the Shredder and they hadn't have pushed out and just gone, oh fuck, they're calling us out on whitewashing. Let's make him a fucking random Korean dude. And then they completely fucked it up in the second movie where like they show Shredder unmasked. He looks completely different from how he did in the first movie, and they don't fucking acknowledge that. And yeah, these movies were a fucking mess. Kind of glad they're not getting a third installment, but whatever. So yeah, it seems like TMNT is kind of on its way back out again. Nickelodeon, like I said, you know, the toys aren't selling too well, so they're going to probably can, like they're canning the current TMNT cartoon at the end of the season, and then they're going to do a new cartoon. I hope it's good. That's all I can say. I hope it doesn't suck. That is my main thing. Like I am always down for a new incarnation of TMNT, something that takes this beloved franchise that has meant so much to me over the last 30 plus years, and just reinventing it and putting a new spin on it and putting like a fresh coat of paint on it. I'm always down for that. And even if it's a bad installment, who gives a shit? Because there's so much more TMNT out there. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like TMNT is one of those things that I don't care that there's a bad installment. Like those movies aren't good. But I don't care that they exist because there's so much more good TMNT. And who cares? Yeah, those movies were dog shit. Who gives a fuck? There's going to be even, there's more opportunities to make more movies down the road, and they can be better. And they can learn from their mistakes. Or they'll make more mistakes that are different and newer and shittier. Who knows? Or better. I don't know. But I'm always down for more TMNT. And I look forward to see what the future holds for this franchise. Now, as for the next one of these, me talking about my favorite franchise kind of videos, normally I would put up a poll and let you guys pick it. I'm just going to hijack the next one because the My Little Pony movie's coming out, and I've been really wanting to talk about ponies, and I feel if I just keep leaving it to you guys, it's never going to happen. So fuck it, I'm going to fucking pull fucking rank, and I'm going to talk about goddamn ponies, because I want to talk about goddamn ponies, and finally just talk about why I love that series so goddamn much. So next time, Xeon, out.